Hello, hello. So it is Sunday, it's time for another weekly wrap up. I have what I read, what I received, and then I'm gonna go what I'm gonna get rid of out of what I read and whatever else. Um, Genuinely, I do have like a full size book haul here, because if we're being real here, all my Black Friday books came in as well as both of my book subscription boxes. I do book the month in Hansama. I think I'm canceling both of them soon because I want to get Rainbow Crate, but yeah. But first up, what we read. I am still on my quest to finish my backlog of New Yorkers. So I do have 3 New Yorkers in this one. I think if I keep going at this pace, I will finish next week. Not this coming week, but the week after that. But I'll only have like one. They keep coming though weekly. Um, but I should be caught up really soon. Before the new year at the very least. So that's great. But I do have a lot of New Yorkers here. The first book, though, I read was one that I borrowed, is The Child Finder by Renee Denfeld. This is a thriller about this woman who was like abducted and like in a cult, and bad stuff happened to her when she was a kid. And so now that she's an adult, she spends her time really trying really hard to find missing children. And there's this girl who, when her and her family were out cutting out a Christmas tree, she disappeared 3 years ago. So she's been disappeared in like the mountains in the snow for 3 years. And so everybody's really given up. But she's like, no, we're gonna at least find the girl's body, because it's we can do that much. And there's a lot going on. It's a very kind of typical thriller in a lot of ways. I did kind of see the twist of who the killer was, who he really was kind of not killer, kidnapper, which isn't really a spoiler because you get the girl's perspective in like chapter 2. I did see that coming. That wasn't that difficult to see, but it was better than I thought it was going to be. It was a little bit like distant in a way that I find a lot of thrillers often are, where there's like a sheet of ice between you and the main character, which is always weird to read. But it was fine. I think I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. It was decent. I borrowed it from one of my 5th graders. She like raided her mom's bookshelf and brought me a handful of books to read. So I read that one. Then my first New Yorker of the week, I did read the November 11th New Yorker, which is the first New Yorker after the election. So this was fun. We did finally get rid of that's all the really like hyping up the election stuff, which was great. Let's see, what this was at, I gave a 3 out of 5. It was kind of middle of the road for me. The home front was a weird one. So this was about people who are preparing for a second civil war, and on a fundamental level, I cannot understand people who not only like prepare for that in a serious way, but who like yearn for that. Like, get a hobby. The Honest Island was a good fiction piece. I really liked it. By Greg Jackson. The home front was by Charles Bethia. That was about it for this one. Everything else, like it was fine, but there was nothing else in there that really like gripped me. Then I read a childhood reread, and that is the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe by C.S. Lewis. This is one of the books in the Chronicles of Narnia series. It was published as the first. This one says #1 on the side. I am a magician's nephew truther. I think this one is the second book, because it is, like, chronologically. It is. It's the second book. I realize the kind of hypocrisy of someone saying that who has written an entire series out of order, but I'm not talking about that. But The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe is a children's classic from the 50s about this group of children who, during World War II, they are sent out of London to go and live with this eccentric old rich guy who's got this giant house, and one of the rooms in this house is this wardrobe that leads to the magical world of Narnia, and it's a very like broad Christian allegory. Like Aslan is Jesus, we all know this. But it is a very good book, and it does have a lot of the charm that I think a lot of our children's classics from the 50s really do. The food descriptions are just, they're wonderful, they're great. That was the thing. Like, modern children's lit needs to get on the classic food descriptions that they were doing. Like, everything. Every classic children's novel I read has the best food descriptions I've ever read in my entire life. But no, I mean, it's a good book. It's fun. I grew up on the 2000s movies and reading these. It was a fun time. I do enjoy it. I think I gave it 5 out of 5 stars just on like a craft level. It is genuinely good. And I can appreciate it. So there's that. I did read that. Then I read 2 books with 2 of my different 5th grade groups. First, my high group, they read The Fort by Gordon Corman. And this one actually didn't go over as well as it did last year. Last year, they sped through this book and they loved it. This year's fifth graders, they take it or leave it. I had a couple, my two girls in the group read it really, really fast and really liked it. But The Fort is about this group of boys who, after a hurricane, takes out a bunch of electricity and everything in their town. They're out exploring and they find a bomb shelter that has been uncovered by the hurricane. And so they go down there and they find it's completely decked out. It's super cool. It's really great. And they decide that this is their new fort. This is gonna be a great time. And they're all dealing with different things. Evan, who we first think is our main character, he's the first one we meet. His parents are in jail for drug issues. And then Ricky's entire problem is that he's smart. That's his entire problem. So it's kind of funny. Jason's parents are getting to go through a really messy divorce. Mitchell has OCD that is currently being untreated because his mom lost her insurance, and CJ is being terribly abused at home from his stepfather. And it's really heavy for a children's book in a lot of ways, but the way that it is presented is, I mean, it's understandable too. And I mean, kids do go through these things. I think it's a good book. I honestly think this is my favorite Gordon Corman book that I have read. I think that it's very interesting. I think it's fun. And I had a good time with it. I give it 5 out of 5 stars. And then the other book that my low group read, but honestly none of my groups are very low. My high group is like 80th percentile and up. My mid group is 70th percentile to 80th percentile, and my low group is 60 percentile. We read The One and Only Ivan. And this is my first time actually reading The One and Only Ivan. I read a lot of Animorphs as a child. I'm collecting them. If you've watching my videos, you will know this. But I've never read this one or any of its sequels. And so The One and Only Ivan is about a gorilla who lives in like a strip mall zoo. And he has lived his entire adult gorilla life with humans. And he's living, he's fine. It's maybe not the greatest, but it's fine. He's living with it. But then a baby elephant gets brought into the zoo and he's kind of like, okay, like maybe I gotta actually do something. It's very good. And one thing that this book did do is it did really, really make a reader out of one of those girls, which is my whole goal here. So that was great. Then I read another New Yorker. This one was the November 4th one. I gave this one another 3 out of 5, so it was another middle of the road one for me. And if I look down here, Next Door Reacts to the Rapture was a really good Shouts and Murmurs. The Shouts and Murmurs are always, there's like one page. It's generally pretty humorous. And they're always pretty hit or miss for me personally. I really enjoyed this one. This was a good one. The Convert, I learned more about J.D. Vance than I ever really wanted to know. From the Wilderness by Yukio Mishima was a great fiction piece. This one, generally the New Yorker does hit with the fiction. The fiction generally is really good. Sometimes it's pretty mad, but I really enjoyed it this time around. That was about it. Again, middle of the road. I had a couple of really, really good ones, but overall it was fine. Then I read my 350th book of the year. I am deeply behind where I was last year, where I was the year before, where I want to be with if I want to hit 500 books this year. Spoiler, it's December 8th and I have 148 books left to go because I have 2 more after this. I have 148 books left to go if I want to hit 500 this year, and I have like 3 weeks left, and that's not genuinely feasible. So that's not gonna happen this year, which is kind of sad, but we'll try again next year. But my 350th book of the year, I could maybe if I pushed it, I could maybe do 400. Maybe. Anyway, The Outsider by Melinda Metz. This is the first Roswell book. And so I remember trying to watch the Roswell TV series when I was a kid, like young teenager, genuinely about 5 times, but every single time it just bored me to tears. And honestly, probably my disdain for Roswell is part of what made me decide that I just hated sci-fi for so long. But Roswell High, The Outsider. So this follows this girl, Liz, and one day she is a high schooler. One day she gets shot at her job, but this guy who goes to her school comes over and like he heals her. It turns out he's an alien, and so is his twin sister, and so is his best friend who's in foster care. And so they end up kind of like, Liz does then have to like talk her best friend down from going to like the police, stuff like that, because I don't know what they're gonna do. These people, they're aliens. really what this book did for me personally at this moment in time is really kind of appreciate just how good young adult literature is now and how good it was when I was growing up, because this came out in the 90s. And a lot of the stuff in the 90s was really not good. You had this, you had Sweet Valley High, you had R.L. Stine and Christopher Pike, who I enjoy but aren't good. Like, Christopher Pike has some bangers, okay. But R.L. Stine, I love R.L. Stine, he's not good. He's just not. And nowadays, and when I was growing up, when I was a teen in like the 2010s, early 2010s, it's great now. Young adult literature is genuinely so good. And this made me appreciate that. I gave it 2 out of 5 stars. Then I read another New Yorker, and honestly, this was my least favorite New Yorker by far, and that is the August 19th one. And this was like a retrospective on a whole bunch of the comedy stuff that they've done over the years. Genuinely, there's stuff in here. It's all like reprints. And so I gave it 1.5 out of 5 stars. The only thing I enjoyed was they posted 4 shouts and murmurs. The only one I liked was The Guy Walks into a Bar by Simon Rich. Everything else in here was dull. It was dull. I read these because I like to, this helps me stay kind of current. Did not like the August 19th one. And the last thing I read, I finished it last night. That is the first Horoscope book. I've read books 2 through 4. And I'm so mad that they never went past 4. But I read The Green Flames of Aries by Robert Laurie. This was better than Gemini Smile, Gemini Kill, and The Curse of Leo. It was not as good as the Revenge of Taurus. Revenge of Taurus is the best by far, but this one did take some of the elements of Revenge of Taurus, or rather, Taurus took from this one because this was the first one, and made it better. So this one, this follows this, he calls himself a beach bum. He's basically, he's just this attractive young man who I kept picturing as Mike Vogel in my head, because I don't even know what it is. I've kind of, based on all the early 2000s movies I've been watching lately, I just like Mike Vogel keeps popping up, and I'm like, oh, Mike Vogel, every single time. Anyway, he just sleeps with older rich women. That's what he does, because when he was a financial advisor, he caused something very terrible to happen. And anyway, him and a bunch of rich people are on this yacht, and they're going on this wonderful cruise trip situation, when a raft shows up, and this guy whose eyes have been burned out of his head, and they're screaming about these flames, and there's these flames, and it's terrible, and they're all gonna die. And then this fog drops on the boat, and they end up finding this island. The main problem with this book was that about a third of it was them on the boat when the fog was dropped, and it was so boring. Like, nothing happened. I feel like Laurie was trying to get us some character interactions there, but none of the characters were really all that interesting. So it didn't really work all that well. I did like the main character, Larimer. He was fine. But other than him, like, I genuinely didn't care about any of them. So there was that. I did like the twist ending. I do think that the elements of a group of people who didn't really know each other in a place where they don't really know what's going on, that's what worked in The Revenge of Taurus, and that is what kind of worked in this one. I gave it 3.5 out of 5 stars. Like I said, better than Gemini and Leo, but Taurus does still reign supreme. So there's that. So these are all of the books that I read this past week. And so if we're talking about what we're getting rid of, honestly, these are not mine in the first place, so I'm taking them back to the school. But other than that, I think the only one I'm going to get rid of is The Outsider. I'm going to keep both Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe and The Revenge of, and The Green Flames of Aries, because I have a complete set now, and I honestly, my classroom already has this book, so that's why I'm not putting it in my classroom. And I always keep my New Yorkers. Like I've mentioned, I think at some point I am going to cut these up and just keep what I like out of them. But there's that. And now time for the book haul. Genuinely, this could be its own video, because I have a lot of books here. I had a book outload order on Black Friday sale. I had a Rainbow Crate order, and then I ordered some stuff from Amazon, and then my 2 book boxes came in. But first up, I did get a DVD. I got the first season of Malcolm in the Middle, because this was a impulse buy before I started doing everything else, because I have been there. It's like there's some CD series that kind of go in and out, where they're available, and Malcolm in the Middle has always been out. I've never been able to find it anywhere, and I was like, no, let's look again. I did find the first season on DVD on eBay, so that's great. I have that. I did get my This Week New Yorker, which is December 9th, 2024. I got that, which brings me back up to, I'm in the middle of one right now. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 4.5, I guess. I'm almost on the one I'm doing right now. So there's that. And now onto the books. So I did get my Hansama box. Again, this is probably my last one. Not because I think it's bad. I really do think that Hansama is a great box if you are looking to find more new manga. But just because I want to get Rainbow Crate. And Rainbow Crate's kind of expensive. And I would rather get Rainbow Crate than this and Book of the Month. Anyway, so this month we got Kagurabachi Volume 1 by Takaru Hokuzono, which is about this kid whose father was a famous swordsmith. There's this war, and so this kid's trying to become a swordsmith, and a tragedy strikes. I am not a huge fan of really actiony mangas at this point in my life. Hopefully this is good. It looks pretty good. Hopefully the characters are enough to keep me here. I also came in that box was Brunhild the Dragon Slayer Volume 1 by Yuki Agarazaki, Takeru Kirishima, and Aoso. So we've got this island, there's a dragon, a girl shows up, and she has something to do with the dragon, I'm guessing. And then the last one is the one that was the most interesting to me, and that's called After God Volume 1 by Sumi Eno, which is about this situation where Japan has been invaded by gods, and they are just really like destroying everything. And just flipping through this, it just looks really dark and really fun and really gross. And I'm excited for it. This is the one that I think I'm most likely to continue on with. Alright, then my two that I got from Amazon, I did get the third volume of Tomo-chan is a Girl by Fumita Yanagida. I really enjoyed the first two volumes more than I thought I would. This is a really funny series about this girl who's very much a tomboy, and her best friend is a boy, and she's trying to convince him, trying to show him that she's a girl, and she has a crush on him, and it's very fun. It's very sweet. I really enjoy it. And then I also did pick up Through the Midnight Door by Katrina Monroe, which is a horror novel, sort of. I'm not quite sure. I think it's a horror novel. It's about these sisters who they find this house when they're young, this creepy house, and they go through the doors and like it changes something in them, and then later when they're adults, one of them is found dead by suicide in the house, which sounds interesting. I'm interested. I'm intrigued. And then my Rainbow Crate books, they had a really great Black Friday sale. I wanted to buy so much more than I did. I ended up just getting the Be Gay Do Crime box, which came with 2 books. First one is Icarus by Kay Ingram, which came with an exclusive cover, which I'm not quite, this is one I've been vaguely interested in. It is, I believe, oh yeah, this one doesn't have the actual synopsis in there. It's like, it's Achillean, a heist, learning about yourself, bad parents. I'm excited. I didn't read The Wicker King. I read her other book. I don't know what it's called, and I looked at everywhere in this book, and nowhere says what it says what her other book is called. That's not The Wicker King. I was interested in The Wicker King. I never read it. It did come with a book plate. But I did get this one. I read her other one that's not it's like I think it's The Weight of Stars. The other one that came in there is an exclusive Rainbow Crate edition. I love the Rainbow Crate editions of Junker 7 by Olive J. Kelly. Like the Foxhole Court ones, it's absolutely gorgeous. So this is sci-fi, lesbian. I've been getting more into sci-fi recently, ever since reading the Robert Heinlein book. I really enjoyed it. Here's the back here, gorgeous. Also comes with a book plate, and then the sides are so pretty. But again, I'm not really sure exactly what this is. I guess, okay, we got it on the back there. There we go. Bounty hunter, collecting, selling valuable scrap. Job offer, smuggling activist. It sounds interesting. Again, I do kind of want to get Rainbow Crate now, and that's why I'm getting rid of my other subscription boxes. And so next I have my Book of the Month stuff. And when the month turnaround came, it came a little bit early this year. It came a little bit early. It came a couple of days before December. Because sometimes if you check close to the turn of the month, you can order early. And I was in my kind of fuck it stage. So I did get 2 add-ons, but the book that I picked for December was The 13th Child by Aaron A. Craig, which is so pretty. You can't really see on there, but the candles, like, if you shift it, it's like they're kind of going on and off. I love it. It's a fantasy. I believe it's young adult actually. And I've been more interested in fantasy recently. I think it's because when it comes to my TBRs, I'm stuck in the front rows right now. And it's a bunch of mass market paperbacks. And there's nothing wrong with mass market paperbacks, but they're all really crappy, like romance stuff or horror, which I love horror. Horror is my main genre, but like it's all really bad horror. And there's only so much, like I love bad horror. It's my favorite kind of bad book, but there's only so much you can take. So I've been really into fantasy like in my head recently. I haven't been reading a lot, but in my head I've been really wanting to. So we've got our main character's 13th child. She's been promised one of the gods. But it's not as bad as she thinks it is. But there's a price. Oh, there's a rakish prince. Is this young adult or is it romantic? Things you can never tell. You can never tell. But I did get it. And then as well as that, I said yes to the Volume 0 again because I like them. This one is Garth by Kate Brody. And then I did pick up Lessons in Chemistry by Bonnie Garmus, which I've heard a lot about. This is about a woman in the 60s, and she gets a cooking show, but she's very focused on like the chemical aspects of it, and then that kind of ends up bringing her into the scientific world. And then another book that I've actually never heard of, I just saw on their add-ons list, and I thought it was interesting looking. It's apparently from January 2020, and that is Not So Pure and Simple by Lamar Giles, which is about this teenager. This is a young adult, I know it is. This teenager, and he makes a move for a girl, but that's funny. So he really likes this girl, and so he follows her to church, and he accidentally signs a purity pledge, which sounds hilarious, actually. Okay, yeah, so it's about societal pressure, toxic masculinity, and what makes it real. It seems fun. It'll be interesting. And then my book outlet order. This is the biggest part of it. I bought a lot of books on Book Outlet for their sale, and I actually deleted a lot from my cart, so I could have bought a lot more. But I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. I got 15. I think I had like 19 in my cart at one point, so I did get rid of some of them. The first one I got is Red Dragon by Thomas Harris. I've never actually read any of the Hannibal books. Of course, I've seen Silence of the Lambs. I did listen to an abridged audiobook of Silence of the Lambs. I had it on tape. I do have it on tape still, I think. But I've never read one. So I own Silence of the Lambs, but I thought I would pick up Red Dragon as well, because it is technically the first book, I'm pretty sure. Then I did get a good chunk of these, like, boys books. Anybody can read any book, but I got a bunch of these books that are young adult that I do think I could put in my 5th grade classroom and would be okay, and what might entice some of these boys that I'm having trouble getting to read. We're getting there, but I am. I got a Gordon Corman. I got Born to Rock by Gordon Corman. This looks like more young adult than a lot of his books. Most of his books are very clearly middle grade, but this one, this is hilarious. So it's about this kid who is very like straight-laced, and he learns that his biological father is the notorious King Maggot, the lead singer of Purge, the most popular and destructive rock band in history, which seems hilarious. And it's him trying to kind of infiltrating that in an attempt to get his dad to pay for his college. It sounds fun. And then I did pick up Shattering Glass by Gail Giles, which is about this kid who he moves to school, and there's this really like kind of unpopular, gross kid who he ends up making a lot more popular, a lot more well liked. But then when this kid becomes super popular, he becomes also kind of terrible, which sounds kind of fun. We've also got The Way by Joseph Bruchac, which is about this kid who is pretty low on the social hierarchy, but his uncle shows up and teaches him how to fight, I think. I don't really know, but this one is one that definitely, I think this is more specifically middle range than the other ones. And then this one might be a little bit iffy. We might be getting into like drugs and stuff here, but we got Venomous by Christopher Crofatine, which is about this kid who has an anger issue, and then he meets a girl, and that makes him want to be better. As well as that, I did pick up Trigger Warning by Neil Gaiman. I know there's a lot with Neil Gaiman happening right now. I know Book Outlet is secondhand, technically. Sort of. This is a bunch of short stories. So I got this. I did also pick up a whole bunch of Bridgerton books. Because I am kind of trying to get into romance, and this is kind of a series that's very, very well loved. The Duke and I have actually read The Duke and I before, but I just grabbed every single one that I saw on the first handful of sale pages that I saw. So I had The Duke and I. We also got The Viscount Who Loved Me, which is Anthony Storch, I believe, book 2. I don't know if it really matters which order you read them in. Romancing Mr. Bridgerton, which is Penelope and Colin, which I think is book 3. And then we also have When He Was Wicked, which is Francesca's story. And then we've got just, I guess, miscellaneous ones that didn't fit into any other one. I've got this one I think I'm most excited for. This is Bad Call by Stephen Wallenfels, which is about a group of kids who go camping, and then there's like a snowstorm, and it's terrifying. And there's something, I think it's because I live in North Dakota, but like something about winter horror always kind of gets me, or like winter thrillers, like when there's snow everywhere, and snow is also helping trap these people that every time, oh, it hits me just right every single time. I love it. Then I got a comic, and that is Dodge City. I don't know if this is a series or if this is the only one, but this is about a group of people who are like a bunch of misfits, and they have a dodgeball team, which sounds kind of fun. Then we've got Unscripted by Nicole Kronzer, which is about this girl who isn't really into improv comedy, but I believe she okay, interesting. So it's about the girl, she into improv comedy, but she gets a really good like spot at like this improv camp. But unfortunately, she's the only girl there, and there's a lot of like issues with that. And also her coach is grooming her, so that's bad news for Zelda there. Then I did get this one. I kind of got because I kind of think I'm gonna be kind of mad about it. So if there's one thing I love and know a lot about, it's the French Revolution. And this is like a dystopian sci-fi French Revolution retelling about Marie Antoinette. It's called Cake Eater by Alison Dolan. I think this is gonna make me really mad, I'm not gonna lie, just because I know a lot, but I'm curious. So we're gonna see. She may salvage it if she does have a character who is Camille Desmoulins. I'm not gonna lie. All right, and then the last one I got is Dead Flip by Sarah Farzan, which is signed. But it takes place in the 90s. I believe. Okay, so one of their friends went missing, and then Corey and Maz are who's left. Oh, and then their friend comes back, but he's still 12. Interesting. This one just looked kind of fun. So yeah, like I said, that was genuinely just a full-size book haul. If all goes well, I mean, you might have been watching the vlogs. Have any of them posted yet? I don't know. I just finished filming the first one. We're kind of doing a bit of a reset situation here. This will be the last one of these for until that's dead. Really, honestly. I might get a book here or there, and I guess if I get any Barnes & Noble gift cards, that might be happening. Or if I go to, I mean, physical bookstores are a little bit different, you know, because there's not one in my town, so like it's a little bit of a special occasion, it's a little bit of a treat. But yeah, that is everything. Talk to you later, and goodbye.